Hi, everybody. This is going to be an awesome episode with my friend Carrie Stiers. She is a psychic medium, she's an intuitive life coach, she's a spiritual teacher, and she knows so much about numerology. And I can't even wait to dive into this episode with her. She is absolutely fantastic. I haven't known her very long at all, and we just finally met face to face today via Skype. And she is just adorable, great energy, old soul. So you guys are going to love her. Hi, Carrie. How are you?
Hi, Candace. I am so excited to be here. I told Candace when we first met, virtual to virtual, I was like, oh my gosh, girl. I was like, I feel like I've known you forever. There's something, when you see certain people, you're like, I know you.
Hey, girl. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, exactly.
And you said before you even came onto the Skype call that you pulled some cards. And what was the card that you pulled?
The first card I pulled was the past life card, which I was like, oh, Spirit, this is the way Spirit talks to us in so many different ways. I was just, blah, 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 over here, like minding my own business, killing a little time. I was like, oh, let me cards. And the first card that came out was the past life card. And I was like, oh, so it's just a reminder that, there are all these holy encounters that we have with each other, that we've all, known each other before, and that there are, quote unquote, I don't know that there are any new meetings per se, especially people who come into our lives that tend to be significant, or people, that we talk to. I think we've all known each other, so it's just affirming to remember, oh yeah, I know you, even though I'm only seeing you now for the first time, like, oh yeah, I know you.
Yes, you just know the soul. You're like, oh, yes, I remember you. We're back. Can't wait to catch up in this lifetime. So it just
Exactly.
feels so good. I know. And just being able to talk to you here now, I, feel like this has been the millionth time I've talked to you. Like, oh, what's well? So I can't even wait to dive into this. And I love, getting to know people more and letting my listeners get to know people more and like their backgrounds, where they grew up, where they came from. I think that's such a fun thing. And I also, just can't wait to dive into numerology because people ask me all the time about numbers. And I personally, that's not my forte. I know certain, numbers that are connected to the angels, but I can't wait to learn about the power of numbers and everything in between. So I know that you are in Florida. I'm in Los Angeles. And so tell me a little bit about your life. What was life growing up for you? Did you constantly always have spirit connecting to you? Did you know what you had? Did you come out of your spiritual closet later in life, early in life? Tell me about you.
When I was a little girl, so I grew up in a very small Midwestern town in Indiana. It's a tiny little town. I grew up on a farm. So I grew up in this tiny town on a farm outside of the tiny town. And growing up, I was really close to my grandmother when I was very young. She was like my bestie, my BFF. I know a lot of you out there listening to this can relate to that. Grandparents were very significant and very important to you. When I was 6 years old, my grandmother died of a sudden heart attack. And when we went to her funeral, this is basically when things started to open up for me. When we were at her funeral, we were in the church. I grew up in this very, traditional community. And we were at the church. My grandmother was a big member there at the church. And we were sitting in the second pew, and her casket was in front of us on the altar, the like literally an open casket funeral. And all of a sudden, we were about to start the ceremony, and I hear someone call my name. And I was like, that was weird. And then I hear someone call my name a little bit louder. And I turned and I looked, and there was my grandmother walking down the center aisle of the church, dressed in her Sunday best, surrounded by her friends, by 3 or 4 friends behind her. And she walks down the center of the aisle. She stops at the end of our pew, and she looks at me. And you can imagine I'm 6 years old, and I'm like, what is going on? And she says, hi, Pumpkin. She was like, I need you to scoot down. And, I'm here for my big day. I need you to scoot down and make some room. And I was like, Grandma, I remember distinctly saying to her, Grandma, you're supposed to be up in that casket. Like, you're up in the casket. And she looked at me like I was crazy, like I had 3 heads. And she was like, absolutely, I am not. She was like, I am right here, and I am here for my big day. So you need to talk to your mother right now. And I was sitting next to my mother and my father and my grandfather. And so I remember whispering into my mother's ear, and being like, Mom, grandma's here. I know you think this is crazy, but grandma's here. And she was like, what? And I remember just being like, this is crazy. But I whispered into my mother's ear. My mother then whispered into my father's ear. This is like a game of telephone. And then my father whispered into my grandfather's ear. And everyone remembers it because we all scooted in together, close together. We all moved all the way down in this pew. And I sat there for the duration of my grandmother's funeral, holding her hand during her funeral. And I remember watching her because I was completely like, what in the world is going on here? I remember watching her. The preacher was talking and she would clap. She was like, she was so proud. She would cry. The choir sang and she was a big member of the choir. She was clapping and her friends, they were so jubilatious. They were happy. They were so excited. And it was like everyone, I remember being very aware that everyone around us was sobbing. My grandmother was a pillar in the community. Sobbing, such heaviness and such heavy emotion. And here I had my grandmother and three other, like, looked to be adults who were like over here having a party next to me. And of course, I couldn't help but feel her joy. I was in her joy field, but that's what I was. And I remember the funeral coming to a close, and she stood up to leave, and I remember getting the sense of panic in my chest, and I was like, Grandma, wait a second. Well, now, wait a second. I was like, you can't go anywhere. You can't leave. And she stopped very lovingly and very patiently at the end of the pew, and she said to me, Pumpkin, I need to explain something to you. You have a very special gift, and you're going to see me and you're going to see others after me, okay? You're going to see me, so this isn't the last time you'll see me. She said, I love you. We're always connected. I'm always here. You'll always see me, but you're going to see a lot more people, okay? And she said, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I love you. You're not alone. And like that, she and her friends were gone. And thank goddess that I had a mother who did not think I was absolutely bananas and bonkers, because I talked to my mother about it, and my mother was so open with me and loving about it. But still, I grew up in a conservative town where, we don't talk about these kinds of things. But I'm a Gemini. Anyone who knows a little Gemini child knows that you're like you're going to be working with a child who is very inquisitive and talkative mostly. And I started having experiences after that. So from 6 years old on, I started having experiences, and I would mostly go and talk to my mom about that. I would tell her things. And so by the time I was 13, she was kind of like, I have to do something with my daughter. And there was a spiritualist church in Indiana, which would be very similar to, a lot of people know of Lilydale in upstate New York is a spiritualist church, Casadega here in Casadega in Florida. And there was a spiritualist camp in Indiana, and my mother, who loved going to see psychics and everything, had been going, and this woman basically said, bring your daughter. My mom was like, I have this daughter, she's seeing things, she's sensing things, what do I do with her? And the woman was like, don't you fail, like, don't worry, come and bring her up here to see me. And her name was Suzanne Greer, and that's who became my mentor and who mentored me. So that's who mentored me. So that I started kind of my mentorship when I was 13. And when we're talking about numerology, Suzanne's biggest thing was that, she kind of felt like, as humans, we all need as many tools in our tool belt as possible. And she taught me numerology when I was 13. I'm going to tell you, that's like one of the first things she taught me. But yeah, so my story started at a very, very young age. Yeah, really, really young age.
Your story gave me the full blown chills at one point. I'm like, don't cry, because that is something that is so, your feelings of and seeing your grandmother, they're so specific and detailed, and her calling you pumpkin, and seeing her dressed in her Sunday best, like, and it's so true, is that every spirit, when they do have a funeral or a ceremony, they get to be there for it, and she got to be there for it. And I love that your family just believed you and they pushed down, and you're so lucky, you know, to have that support where a lot of people, you know, their parents be like, oh, okay, and that your mom just continued to support you through that. I think that's so beautiful. So that is
Yeah.
a really neat story. And 100%, like when you see Carrie, you can see like this just totally different energy about her in such a beautiful way, that you have such an angelic light to you. And I can only imagine, I would love to see you in action. Do you do events now? Do you do readings? Like, how do you use your gifts?
And it's funny because Suzanne had to like push me kind of out of the cradle because, like so many people who are empaths and who are intuitives, I think we kind of live in a world where we're conditioned to believe, oh, that's a gift you have. That's not a business. That would not be a business. That's not something you would do, to support yourself with. So here I was through most of my all of my childhood and my, young adult life. And I was just, I would just give random messages to people, oh, the bartender at the bar, oh, there's her grandfather next to you. I would just give messages. Um, and, um, and it wasn't until about I would say maybe like 7 years ago, that my mentor called me, the same mentor who I've always worked with. And she was like, listen, Carrie, she's like, she kind of told me that she'd had a very, a diagnosis that was, saying, she's like, I'm not going to live much longer. And she's like, I don't really know if I can like deal with you not doing this for a living any longer. And she basically she just called me out of the blue and she was like, we need to talk. And she had this like come to Jesus moment with me where she really encouraged me to step beyond my fear and to really take it a little more seriously and to be like, this is what you were born to do. She's like, I've been mentoring you and teaching you at this point. And I was in, my mid 30s, and she was just like, it's time. And she's like, my generation's getting older. We're moving on. You are the next generation. Like, this is what we've been supporting you to do, which is to step up. And I remember, even though it was a very, she said it so eloquently and so beautifully, I still remember the resistance. It was real. So I had to the stepping out was interesting for me. So I built my business primarily on Instagram, so on social media, because I kind of felt like I wanted to, it's my personality. I love Instagram. I love social media. I love connecting with people from all around the world. I wanted to start my platform there. So it's interesting. I started my business in a very virtual setting. Mm-hmm. And so now at this point in my business where I've been doing readings, I read for people all over the world all the time. In the last couple of years, it's been like, okay, Spirit's like, okay, you've been doing this for a while and now there's more. So yes. I've been teaching. So I've started teaching. Yes, it's time. So I've been teaching online classes and I just launched a subscription service. And this year, one of my big goals is to, get out and do like public events. I speak in front of thousands, 100, 1,500 people on Instagram. It doesn't even like faze me. That doesn't faze me. And now it's time for me to come out into the world to like the 3D,
100%. And your mentor, did she pass, correct?
She passed on my birthday, if you can believe it, 3 years ago. So on my birthday, and I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I was like, Suzanne Greer. I was like, oh, and I work with her every day. Couldn't pick any other day. Yeah. Couldn't pick any other day. Picked my birthday, and I just felt her winking at me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
You're sharing a day now, and you're so special to her. You can definitely feel that she's so motherly to you and just connected, more than just a mentor. So yeah, 100% you can feel her for sure. Yeah. And I'm so glad that she was like, it is time to step it up. And you have a crazy, amazing following on Instagram. She has like over 13,000 followers. I think it's amazing. And I think that our generations now are being more accepting towards the gifts that people do have. And I'm so glad that she's not only was your mentor here on earth, now she's your mentor also in heaven. And I'm sure that you feel her and she guides you. And I 100% see you doing events live in front of people. You have to. And I will help you get past that fear. I will stand next to you while you read people. You definitely have this for sure. And you have nothing to fear.
It's hysterical. I meet so many well-known teachers in our field, and they're terrified of social media. And, where it's like, the juxtaposition that our generation totally embraces social media and like we're all, social media is the jam. And so it's really funny for me now in my evolution to like to realize everyone has their fear points. But when I was, we all, I think when we're younger, we all know the dream. So when I was a little girl, I had all kinds of visions of being on stage and teaching. And my mother used to call me preacher girl, which is hysterical because, a lot of us are born into families where even though younger, we're actually older spiritually, if you all understand what I mean, so we come in the older soul of the group, even though we're the youngest soul in the group. And my mother used to always call me preacher girl. It's hysterical. So now that I'm doing this work, even though people were like, oh, she's going to do this full time. Now amongst my friends and family, they were like, this is always what you've been doing. So now you're just, now it's official. So, and it's been really good. I love this work. I can't imagine doing anything else. I think, I say that, we are all a part of the bridge generation. I that's what the term I've always heard for us, this generation that's incarnated at this point, the bridge generation, that we have all come here to kind of shift consciousness and, moving out of this age of Pisces and the age of duality. If you know anything about astrology, Pisces, in the picture, you've got two fish going in opposite directions. So this like moving us from this age where love and fear can exist in the same same container to into the age of Aquarius, where this is where we're going. And I think this is a really exciting time in the history of our consciousness, of our evolution, of our world to be here, even though I know people are like, it's so crazy, but it is. But it's also the other side of crazy is excitement. And it's also equally super, super exciting to be here right now.
I call life a beautiful disaster because it can be so beautiful and there's so many amazing shifts and changes and excitement. And then there's disasters and it's just part of the earth journey. And I, preach you, the preacher girl. And I think that people already saw you because you're very transparent. You're just wear your heart on your sleeve, that people just already knew what you were destined to do before you even realized. And you talking about at 6 years old, seeing your grandmother, and then around 13, finally, your mom was like, all right, let's get this show on the road here. I think those two ages are very significant for people who have gifts. Is 6, 7 years old, and about 13, 14 is like where it starts to really kind of tune in. So it's really interesting that you said that. And I love that now your mentor's name is Suzanne.
Yeah, Suzanne.
Now, Suzanne also taught you about numerology, and I know that that's such a huge question too. You're so fascinating. You're like the tricks of all trades right now.
I'm a Gemini. Come on, we're like Geminis are like jack of all trades, master of none.
You have your own dictionary. You know exactly what you need to know, and I think that's awesome. So I can't wait to learn from you about numerology and where it all stands. And I'm so excited to have found you, my friend Nicole, who told me to follow you and check you out, because a while ago I was like, I need somebody on here who knows numerology, because I seriously don't know shit about it. I know a few numbers and that's about it, like 444 and 222 and consecutive numbers, but I think people need to dive deeper into where this all started and where it came from and significance. And I also asked, my Instagram followers their questions about numerology, because they have great questions always, and sometimes I'm not even thinking about it. So I love your story, and I think that's awesome. You guys have to absolutely follow Carrie too, which we'll also mention at the end. And your Instagram handle is?
At Carrie Stiers. So it's my first and last name. So it's CarrieStiers.
Excellent. Oh, go follow her. So let's get into numerology. For people being like, what the fuck is numerology? What is numerology, girlfriend?
So numerology is basically the study of the energetics of numbers. So it's this whole idea, Pythagoras, if many of you remember in your math classes in high school, you heard of something called the Pythagorean theorem, right? So Pythagoras was a scientist, a mathematician, and he was down with the numbers. Like, he loved the numbers. And he theorized that all numbers have an energetic vibration, okay, or an energetic frequency. And we can see it in our culture. You know, one is the loneliness. Loneliness. We say zero, right, is like nothing. You know, we even in our culture and the way we talk about numbers, we associate two partnership, okay, like two. You know, we associate certain emotional like, you know, certain things to different numbers. So Pythagoras said all numbers have an energetic vibration, they all mean something. And so he started assigning those. He studied that, he studied them, and he's kind of known as like the founder or the grandfather of the numerology that I follow. And I think it's absolutely true. When I look at numerology and I look at the energetics of these numbers, everything in the world has an energetic frequency. Everything emits an energetic vibration. So numbers being the same thing, you know, a name can, you know, says 1,000 words. Well, a number does the same thing. And, you know, when I was learning numerology, the one thing that I love about numerology is that it's accurate and it's really easy to learn. I love astrology and I'm a student of astrology and I talk about astrology a lot on my channel, but astrology, there are so many layers. There's so much learning in astrology. Numerology is just, you're learning, once you learn the basic energies of the first of 0 through 9, of the numbers 0 through 9, you've got it basically. All you're doing is learning a couple of different calculations and how to do some calculations. But basically, it's 9 numbers. And if you know the 9 numbers plus the master number 11, 22, and 33, you're kind of set. And I'm the kind of person as a Gemini, you know, this is kind of how I work is I kind of cut and run. I kind of look at every modality and I look at what are the best pieces of this healing modality, and I want to learn those, grab them, put them in my tool belt, and move on. And for me, numerology, I'm just going to say this really quick. If you learn your life path number, the life path number is similar to your sun sign in astrology. Okay, so your life path number we get by adding up all the numbers in your birthday. Okay, so I was born on May 23rd, 1976. I'm totally fine with people knowing my age. I have don't care. But okay, so in that case, to get my life path number, I would add the month, my birthday, 5, the month of my birthday, plus the day, 2 plus 3, because I'm born on the 23rd, and then I add it to the year, so 1976. I prefer to add each digit straight across in a row, and once you get that, you get a number, and you're going to reduce that number to a single digit. So it's essentially adding up all the numbers in your birthday and reducing to a single digit, and that's your life path number or the essence of who you are, okay? Very easy number to calculate. The other number that I find really beneficial in readings and for people in the world is your personal year number, which is to try to figure out what is the energetic cycle of the year that you're going through, okay, your current year. And you get that by adding the month of your birthday to the birthday of your birthday with the current year. So instead of using your birthday year, the year that you were born, you use the current year instead. Oh. And to me, those are probably the two most, I think, interesting numbers in numerology. But numerology is just great. It's easy to learn, it's fast, it's accurate. Ask anybody. My husband, a non-believer, well, not a non-believer because you couldn't be married to me to be that, but he's very, very logical and sequential. I taught him numerology. Oh my gosh, he uses it all the time.
That's so cool.
He's so down with it.
Like my birth year is 1989. I know I'm 10/13/1989. So I add 1 plus 0 plus 1 plus 3. And now do I add 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9?
Okay, so your birthday, I'm sorry, is October 13th.
1989.
1989. Okay, we'll use this. You're so awesome. So in that case, I'm just writing your year out. So I'm writing the 10 plus 13 plus 1989, but I'm going to add those up individually because the individual number that it totals out to gives us a lot more information. So in that case, I would add the 1 plus 0 for October for 10. Okay, so obviously that's 1. And then I'm going to add the 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9. And because I don't do math very aha, hysterical that I do numerology. It's called I have a calculator, folks. That's how it works.
Calculators, everybody. I know you're all adding up your birth dates right now.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to add up yours. 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 9. And that is a 32. And let's just add that again because Carrie Stiers sometimes makes mistakes. And let's just be accurate.
I'm the worst at math. The worst. And I just will never be good at it.
Girl, I have a journalism degree. I'm a writer, a talker, like computing numbers. That's hysterical. And it's hysterical that I do it every day in readings. That's God's gift. That's like God's joke. Okay.
Yeah, like, no, you're not gonna, fleeing from the math.
So your name, your birthday, your date of birth, okay, adds up to a 32. And remember, in numerology, we're trying to reduce to a single digit. So we're going to take that 32 and we're going to add that plus 2, and then 3 plus 2 equals a 5. So your base vibration is a 5. So you are a 5 life path, okay? And I like to think of 5s like honorary Geminis, okay? Like a 5 is fun. They're chatty. Oh my gosh. They're chatty. They're fun. Crave adventure, okay? So I know you're an adventurous little soul, okay? Curious is all get out, okay? Boredom, I would say, would be one of your greatest nemesis, okay?
Yes.
Boredom would be.
We don't freak out when I'm bored. I am like, I cannot deal with bored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can't do boredom. And the other side of the 5 energy is, I would say 5s tend to be the ones that if there's going to be an addiction issue, you might find that in a 5 life path. Okay. 5s tend to also check out a little bit, or can kind of go, they can go into their own addiction. I'm not even saying drugs and alcohol, food. You could just put it up there. Sugar, there can be a million different ways. But so the other side of that 5 energy is sometimes addiction. But it's interesting to note that you add up to a 32, and the 3 tells me, in numerology, 3 is the most creative number in the world. It's creative, it's expressive. Those are the writers, those are the performers. It's a fun number, okay? It's also a number that sometimes has a hard time focusing. But that 3 energy tells me, of course, you've got a podcast. Of course, you're like communicating and doing this work, because that's a part of who you are and what you need to be happy. And the 2 tells me that you're a cream puff, okay? Because the 2 is, as we alluded to earlier, is all about love, okay? And is all about.
What'd you say?
I called you a cream puff. I just called you a cream puff. I just called you a little cream puff.
Am I doing that right? I'm a Hufflepuff and I'm a cream puff. So I guess I'm a
cream puff. Because 5s tend to be very analytical, okay, and really up in their head. So I would say you are not a traditional 5, okay? You're a very softy 5. I would say you're a soft 5, because really there's this very creative part of you with the 3 energy, and then the 2 energy tells me that you love to relate to others, and that being in relationship to others is critical for you. You may have come out of the womb wanting to be married. I don't know, but I mean, you are like, it's like, but that 2 energy just tells me that, I mean, love is really important to you, and peace, okay, and people getting along would be really important to you, and that you would be a great peacemaker per se, and a person to kind of help bridge peace and bring people together, that you have a beautiful way of being able to do that. So that base number can tell us quite a bit. It can give us more detail than what the life path. The only time you all do not want to reduce that number is if your birthday adds up to an 11, a 22, or a 33. Those are master numbers. And we have to know about that. 11 is a highly spiritual number, a very karmic number. 22 is the master builder number, which tells us that you have a beautiful special gift to kind of get into like systems and organizations and help people build. And this is from a very spiritual perspective, from a very grounded perspective. And the 33 energy is the master teacher, is the master nurturer. 33s tend to have to go through quite a bit of childhood trauma, I would say, in order to be able to teach what, they're teaching about love and acceptance. And hello, I'm a 33. Thank you, God. But 33.
Passwords are 1133 in it.
Oh.
I've just always been attracted to 11. That's always been my jersey numbers for softball and any other sports I played. And 33, I don't know. I just had that connection to it. So I always found that interesting.
Yeah.
And
And
I did
master
come out of
numbers.
the womb screaming out of my mom's vagina, apparently, like blood murder screaming. So she said that it was just not exactly what she was expecting. Yeah, she said my head was out and I was screaming my head off. So
We're like, well,
came in.
fives are talkative. Fives will like give the best speeches. Again, it's like having a Gemini at the helm. So you're like an honorary Gemini there. So that cracks me up though.
Yeah, screaming out of the vagina. I'm just always been talking, always been blah, 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 blah. I can't
Like, here
stop.
I am, world. Hello, here I am. I
And I was born on
thrive.
a Friday, the 13th. So it just makes sense. Everything makes sense. So
Everything.
that's so interesting. And remind me what you said the master, just so people can hear it again. I'm sure they can replay it back. But 11, I'm sorry, yeah, 11.
11, 22, and 33.
What are those? You said the master.
Those are master numbers in numerology. And master numbers do not mean you're quote unquote special. Actually, people who come in with master numbers in their chart, when we see master numbers in the chart, it's very karmic. I mean, I'm telling you, people with heavy master numbers mean that you have chosen to come in here in this lifetime and move karma and shift a lot of karma and do a lot of healing and a lot of growing. So people with master number energy tend to feel, I would say, heightened anxiety to kind of achieve the mission, heightened anxiety to kind of get things done because they know it's like their soul remembers that there's a lot to accomplish and that they like bit off like this is a big important lifetime. Not that they're not all important, but we all understand that there are some lifetimes where we're really getting it done. Okay.
I'm glad I'm 32 because I already have enough anxiety.
Well, I don't know. I haven't looked at your chart. I mean, goodness, girl, you may have you might have a master number in your destiny number. I mean, there's like, you could have master numbers everywhere. So you never know.
So
But
many brands.
there's so many, yeah, like everything, there's all these different, it's like in astrology, your sun sign is just the beginning. You got a rising sign, a moon sign, planets. Same thing in numerology. There's all these other calculations because also in numerology, there's the Pythagorean chart because in numerology, your name also says something about you because every letter in the alphabet is associated with a number.
Right. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes. It's a whole can
Oh,
of worms, girl. It's a whole
this
can of
is
worms. It's a
and
whole
it's
can of
oh
worms.
anything underground is like Harry Potter to me. So this is definitely underground. Everything has an attachment to a number.
Yes,
Oh,
every
so
letter in the alphabet has an attachment to a number. And if you look it up, folks, if you look it up online, you can look up the Pythagorean numerological chart or the Pythagorean chart, and you'll see it'll tell you it'll tell you the letter and the number associated with the letter. So you can do numerology like on your home address, you can do numerology
yes.
on the place you live. You can do your numerology on your husband, on your boyfriend, on your girlfriend, on your parents, on your anybody. Okay, I'm telling you, you can look at anybody's energy, and you can
You're just
just
gonna be like,
run it.
you meet people now, you're gonna be like, hang on, don't want to know anything about you. Give me your birthday. Let me just see if you're like worth my time. So now, like, do like a little example, like a short name, like Amy, we'll just say. So A is one. Oh gosh.
Mhm. I'm gonna have
Do
to
you
pull out
know?
my chart because I don't have this memory. I knew you were gonna ask me this, even psychically. I knew you were gonna ask me this. I was like, oh girl, you better have it ready. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I do. I taught last year. I taught a three-part numerology class, like where I went through like basically numerology from top to bottom. So A would be one. Okay, so we did Amy. Okay, AMY. So A is one, as you all know. M, and I'm having to look up here, is four. And
Well,
Y, now Y, I think is hysterical. You gave me a name with a Y in it. Y is our like little, sometimes Y can be a consonant and sometimes Y can be a vowel, just so you all know. And for some calculations, that's important to know.